If you know me, if you know anything about me, you will know that I can't help but talk about World Cup qualifying. It's what I do. So I'm going to ask for your allowance for a second because I promise you I'm going to recap all World Cup qualifying, all these different things that have happened. And I'm going to do it dutifully. But there's one particular tie that I want to mention, something that happened while I was away for the weekend that is just why you play the game. It's why you play the game. I don't think that you could imagine, and the funny thing is the reward isn't, everything. It's just Ireland going to the European playoff. It's Ireland's World Cup dreams staying alive at the expense of Hungary, who it is, we cannot overlook here, brutal to be Hungary in this entire situation. But I'm going to wind the clocks back a week, right? Because everybody's locked in on Troy Parrott's winning goal, right? To win against Hungary. Just this unbelievable singular moment. But I want you to look at this table, and I want you to wind it back to after Ireland has been defeated by Armenia and Portugal in consecutive matches. Okay, Armenia's on 3 points. They're ahead of Ireland, who's on 1 point. All right, we have Hungary sitting on a cushy 4 points ahead of Armenia. Right? They're coming off a beautiful win against the Armenians. They're on 4 points. They're right here. Armenia's on 3. Ireland's on 1. And Portugal, of course, is coasting. They've won all 3 of their opening matches. They're looking like they're going to clinch the World Cup in no time flat. 9-4-3. Ireland on 1. Off back-to-back losses against Armenia and Portugal. At that particular moment, there would have been no notion that Ireland had a chance here. I mean, mathematically they did. And this Irish story is the reason that I say mathematically. Right? Because if I'm making any prediction, if you're betting any money, you're not looking at this situation going, Ireland's going to be able to grab a top 2 spot. They're going to be able to wrest this from Hungary. I mean, they've got Portugal left at home, but there's no way Ireland's going to be. They just lost to Armenia. Let's be real here. They got 1 point from the first round of matches. And that was a draw in the opening match against Hungary, where Hungary kind of gave it to them in Dublin. Okay, so I'm not sitting there going, yeah. I mean, the percent chance was crazy low, right? That they were even going to be able to claw their way into a top 2 spot. And then something really unfortunate happened. Hungary drew Portugal, which meant that Hungary just got a free point, even though Ireland managed to find a way to survive against Armenia, which, by the way, was a tied match in the 70th minute after a red card to Armenia in Ireland. But nothing about this is saying Ireland is going to go ahead and grab a European playoff spot. There's no way. This was Ireland's first win of the World Cup qualifying group. It was the easiest match. They needed a red card and a 70th minute goal to do it. Now, I'm not going to pretend that Ireland isn't, actually a better team than Armenia, but this is not a mind-blowing result here for the Irish national team. A national team that has been, frankly, dog shit for a while. They made a Euros, I think it was 10 years ago. Maybe 10 years ago. It was the same Euros that I believe Ireland and Northern Ireland both made. I could be misremembering that a little bit. Right, but the Republic of Ireland national team, much the same as Wales and Scotland and Northern Ireland, has faded from relevance. Wales, obviously, with the sensational Gareth Bale-fueled return to the spotlight. But Scotland hasn't been to a World Cup since '98. Northern Ireland famously can't get near a World Cup to begin with. And Ireland, I mean, the Irish League, it's on the come up a little bit. But there just aren't a lot of good Irish players anymore. There aren't a lot of good Scottish players. There aren't a lot of good Welsh players. It doesn't really happen. But they were still alive after this win against Armenia. They're sitting on 4 points. Hungary's sitting on 5 points. And think about where we're at that position, right? Because that's what always gets lost in this, is how depressing that would have looked. Hungary's on 5. Ireland's on 4. Armenia's on 3. Portugal is there. So Hungary's a point ahead. And they've already played Portugal. Which means all that needs to happen from this point on, right? Walk with me here. Is Hungary on 5, Ireland on 4. Hungary has to beat Armenia, and Ireland has to somehow not lose to Portugal? Yeah, okay. Sure, I'll fucking believe that when I see it. And that's the first match, too. And then all of a sudden, hell freezes over, right? Let's not pretend for a moment that Ireland's a better team than Portugal. But for some reason, and a large part of that reason was an absolutely raucous crowd, like vibrating stadium type of crowd. Ireland was just razor sharp. Of course, Portugal had a ton of the ball. Of course, they had the pressure for most of the game, but Ireland would get up the field, and instead of looking their normal lost selves, they would find a way to score. Troy Parrott specifically would find a way to score. And of course, Cristiano Ronaldo offered some help by elbowing somebody. And then, of course, he's walking off the field saying, well, you guys aren't going to the World Cup. Well, hold on there just a second. Because with this win, all of a sudden, Hungary's sweating. Hungary had to go to Armenia. They had to kind of gut this out. They got a goal in the first half, right? And Armenia is one of those teams that's just good enough to be annoying if you're not at your best. So Hungary had to try and battle their way through this. And keep in mind, Hungary's a way better team than Ireland here. Hungary is a team that showed up at the Euros in the group of death and got like 4 points. I think it was 2 Euros ago now. But we're not seeing Ireland at the Euros. Right? Hungary is a consistent European Championship qualifying team, which means they're looking at World Cup qualifying, licking their chops. Because Hungary hasn't fucking gone in a while either. In fact, Hungary has not been to the World Cup since 1986. And they have built themselves up to try and get somewhere near the fact that Hungary was basically the best team in the world for about 15 years there, including match-fixing accusations that led to them never actually winning a World Cup. But that's another video for another day. This is a Hungary team, obviously, that has players like Dominik Szoboszlai that play at the very, very top level of the game. They are supposed to beat Ireland. They are supposed to be better than Ireland. And even after the Irish get that miraculous win against Portugal, that brings us to Budapest. Hungary is at home. And to be frank, if Hungary wants to be the team that they know they can be, that they have shown that they can be, with results against the giants of Europe pretty consistent, with a draw against Portugal. Right? Apparently, though, Ireland beat Portugal. Maybe Portugal's not all they cracked up to be in this round of matches. But anyways, you have to be able to not lose to Ireland at home. All you need is a draw. You have to be able to do that. That's a litmus test. And this is, of course, just to be able to get to the European playoff. This is not World Cup qualification, but this is to get to the European playoff, which is a 16-team tournament that will send the final 4 teams to the World Cup from Europe. Right? Europe gets 16 teams. There's only 12 groups, so each group winner goes, and then the 4 teams from the playoff. Yippee-ki-yay. Hungary, trying to get to that playoff, should get to that playoff. I think everybody, when Ireland beat Portugal, went, wow, that was nice, but surely not. Surely not 3 straight wins to close the book. Surely not a win over all 3 teams in their group to grab a European playoff spot. But I think you can figure out why we're making this video. Ireland, of course, does win in Budapest, and they do it in the most ridiculous way imaginable. They give up a 3rd-minute goal. You can hear it in the Irish commentators' voices when that goal goes in. Oh, the Irish have conceded an early goal. Like, oh, that was fun to believe. Maybe we had a chance after all. You know, miraculously, we are still alive here. Then they get a penalty. Then Barnabas Varga scores a banger, an absolute banger. Look at this. Tell me this isn't a little James Rodriguez. I mean, that at home to go up 2-1 in a match that all you have to do is avoid a defeat in. Hungary's going to be feeling top of the world. And Hungary has 1 or 2 other chances to score here. Right? They're playing Ireland. Ireland's not very good. They get their opportunities to score. Not massive, but 1 or 2. They don't take them. Kelvin Kelleher, or however you say his first name, makes 1 or 2 really, really impressive, really, really nice saves. And then something happens that is going to haunt Hungary. Their line doesn't rise fast enough. Troy Parrott has a run going the other direction that breaks him open. He's in on goal. He brings it down. And of course, Troy Parrott is in the matrix at this point. He scored both goals against Portugal. He scored the penalty in the first half of this match. Deserved penalty, also. Just a random kick out. But if Troy Parrott's in on goal, he's the one guy. If he's in on goal, he's going to finish it. He's seeing the music. He is one with the force right now. You love it when forwards are like that, but Troy Parrott's the guy you can't forget about when he's running in the other direction, because he's going to kill you. And he does that. And Ireland scores to equalize. And this is the moment the fear of God hits for Hungary. You can feel it. Because now we're into the final 10 minutes. And now Ireland, which is like a professional shithouse team, just needs to shithouse a goal. And they almost do it in the 90th. But it wasn't Troy Parrott that got on the end of it. This was the chance, by the way. A lot of people overlook this chance. This was an insane chance for the Irish. Ball through on the side. This is 91st minute. So, I mean, I don't think you're gonna be able to see a replay here, but basically, he gets in on this angle, takes the shot, and the keeper saves it with his elbow. He saves it with his elbow. I mean, that ball's going in. And at this point, Hungary is sweating so hard you wouldn't believe. And then, of course, the moment that everybody keeps replaying, right? The ball gets cleared away. Kelleher comes all the way up to the halfway line and just kind of lops it in. Right? This is the last kick. Right? We are at that point in stoppage time where if he'd blown the whistle, you wouldn't have been stunned. But there's been enough stoppages that he's basically going to say, all right, one more foray past the clock. Here you go. And it's just magic. It's pure... It's just magic. It's a magical football moment.
It's all on this from Crazier. Scales is up after it. Scales wins the header. There's a chance. Yeah! Oh, there's the goal. That's Troy Parrott.
And I mean, you can understand the explosion here just when you look at where they were. I mean, everybody goes into World Cup qualifying, even the Faroe Islands goes into World Cup qualifying and goes, you know, if things fall our way, right? They didn't. They got 1 point. They lost to Armenia. And they stared down the barrel of likely needing to win their last 3 matches, as unbelievably as unlikely as that may have seemed. And they just found a way. They survived Armenia. They pulled off just the ultimate incisive counterattacking performance against Portugal, and they were down 3 minutes into this game. They gave up a James banger to close the first half. They needed 2 goals in Budapest to survive with 10 minutes left. And they got it. And Troy Parrott scored 5 goals in 2 matches. I mean, I've saved a few things just because I want you to watch this. This is footage of celebration around Ireland of this goal going in. Here's some random bar. Absolute limbs. Yeah, I do wonder what's going on with the bartender back here. This dude just enchiladying the shit out of this situation, but everybody else deservedly going absolutely nuts. Here's an airport bar, by the way. I don't know if you've ever been to an airport bar, but you're really not getting everybody together. You got people working at the airport here. Here's some place called the Wool Shed in Dublin. I mean, that's just what it's all about. And I'm sure I only have access to all of this because of the English language, and that makes it easier for me to see this than like DR Congo's celebrations. And we're going to talk about all of that. But this was just an unbelievable moment. Unbelievable. Both good and bad, because if you're Hungarian, I'm not watching the national team for 3 years if I'm Hungarian. I can't even imagine the pain. It's so many points you thought you were safe, and you had this false sense of comfort, and the Irish just refused to die. They did not die. and they did everything at the bare minimum level just to stay alive, and somehow they hit the moonshot. I mean, this is the end of Star Wars Episode 4 when both them little laser balls go into that hole on the Death Star. That's the shot that Ireland hit. And now they're going to the playoffs, and they still only have a 25% chance to make the World Cup, but I'll be damned if they're not believing now.